artmap.tv, we are with Mark Jenkins, street artist. Mark, how did your career start?
I started doing sculpture in around 2003, and I was living in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And I started messing around with packing tape and using it as a sculpture medium. And once I figured out how to make casts of things like balls or pots and pans, I started using the tape on my own body until I made like a realistic cast of myself. And then I started putting those on the street. And so I didn't study art in a university. I studied geology, so I just transitioned from, I don't know, I just went straight to the street.
Where do you get inspiration for your artworks?
Oh, I get inspired by other artists to some extent. Early on, I was inspired a lot by Juan Munoz. He's a Portuguese artist. He's dead now, but he did a lot of installation sculpture, and I like that a lot. But I think more, for me, it's a day-to-day. I get inspired a lot by things I see out on the street or in galleries. But, you know, around here, for instance, just walking along and seeing the Chinese shops and the people on the street selling things, it's pretty vibrant culture, and so I can pull from that to get my ideas.
What do you want to communicate with your artworks?
I think for me, I kind of create characters, and these characters come to life on the street, so it's not so much of a need to communicate, but just to put them somewhere where they can communicate themselves. I kind of almost see them as having their own sort of just they're almost like sentient beings in and of themselves, because people have a relationship with them, especially when they think that they're real. And I think you really get this sort of stage theater. So I feel more like a stage director than an artist sometimes.
Can you talk about the Living Layers project and your new book, The Urban Theater?
Well, the Living Layers project is from, this of course is from Wonder Camera, and they invited me to be part of this. And, you know, a lot of this, you just kind of become part of the city, and then you receive from it and you give back to it, but it's really kind of just being influenced by everything around you. And so for me, since I'm really in the moment of what's happening on the streets, and yeah, it's like the shops, what's happening on the streets, and all these sort of layers of different cultures that are all morphing together, that's kind of my inspiration. But like here, for instance, like I've used a lot of like garbage and stuff in my art. So here, Rome, the way they collect litter and stuff like that, it really works for me. So we did a lot of like pieces where we interact with the garbage and stuff. But it's, for me, like these guys, you know, they're born and bred in Rome, and I think they're, for me, they're like nice citizens, I suppose.
Is the place that inspire you, or maybe inspiration comes when you have already started your artwork?
I think, yeah, sometimes when I come to a city, I maybe try to have some ideas that I want to have happen, but usually the projects go best when I have enough time to be in the city and let it go back and forth. That was the nice thing about this project here, is because we were here almost a month, and so we really have time to kind of get a feel for things and not just kind of walk in and say, okay, we're going to make this project here. I think a lot of artists, they come with their ideas and they're already approved and they make them, and they're not affected by the location like this is, so it's cool.
What are the artists that you like the most?
I think of the more like modern artists. I mean, early on, like I said, Juan Munoz. I liked Hans Bellmer. I like some of the guys that are out there right now, like Irvin Wurm and Gormley and Mark Quinn. Other street artists. Of course, Banksy's out there, and he's an influence to most people. And then Italian artists like Blue, Eric Ilcana. I think those are the two powerhouses in Italy, and I've worked with both of these guys. So Blue's so, you know, such a maniac for, you know, his effort, you know, that he inspires me to get out of bed, just because I'm like, oh, Blue's out there doing something, I need to get out of bed and get busy too.
Where do you like to include your artworks, and why?
Yeah, so as far as like locations, sometimes it's just a matter of like, what can you do or what can you get away with, since, you know, sometimes we work without permissions. So obviously I think more interesting environments can be nice. I worked on a project once where they let me install sculptures in a cafeteria. So I had this girl, like, she'd died in her food, and it was really interesting because they were bringing her coffee every morning for breakfast, and the people had to sit next to her eating their lunch, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's more just whatever opportunity there is, and then just doing a risk assessment of, like, can I do this, and how much trouble could I maybe get in, and making a good decision. Yeah.
Any advice for you young artists?
For new young artists, I think a lot with the street art, a lot of it has been a sort of thing of, like, it became very mainstream, and there's a big fan base for it. And I think a lot of artists, as soon as they make artwork, they're trying to put it on the internet and get people to look at it. And I think that sort of having that sort of goal here takes you away from the artwork in front of you. And I think just for me, I think what I tell people is, like, pretend that you're the only person on the planet that's going to see it. Maybe everyone else is dead, there's apocalypse. Like, what kind of art would you make if you were the only person walking around to see it in your city? For me, I make these people, they're like friends, and I think I would like to have them if I was walking around and no one could see it. And I think if you can be true to that, then I think you're making the right kind of art.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Okay, all right.